Um, I did want to make an additional comment too, and it is kind of ironic that Mr. Kiefer's comments are very similar to what I wanted to say tonight. I really would encourage council to be aware of what our neighboring cities are up to. Um, I'm probably going to comment more at a future meeting, but a good friend of mine serves on the Lakeville City Council, and they are proposing what I think are really, really good amendments to their city ordinances to include banning hyperscale data centers, large hyperscale data centers. They are proposing setbacks off of County Road 70. I think they noted 500 feet. They have also proposed, I believe, having data centers only to be a single use type building within industrial parks only, and so not a large campus type structure. But the one piece, and I know there's been a tremendous amount of talk about water, about electricity, about environmental hazards, which are all very relevant, and I think are concerns for all of us. But the one piece that doesn't get a lot of attention that is a concern of mine, and I think I've talked to others about as well, is what happens to these buildings after their useful life cycle is done? The building might be able to stay, in the ground, be structurally sound, be able to handle harsh summers, tornadoes, what have you. But certainly you find this with malls, or, you look at Burnsville Mall, it's a big blighted area. I think City of Burnsville and other communities have been trying to figure out what to do with it for years. I still don't know that they've come up with a plan, but it's an eyesore for the community. And that's a really big concern of mine as it relates to our project that is forthcoming, is what is, if the end user chooses to leave 5, 10, 15, 20 years, there's going to be X amount of buildings, potentially up to 12, that are going to stay there. And so what Lakeville is doing in response to that is, and again, this is all theoretically being talked about right now, just 5 miles west of us, is having a decommissioning fund to say, okay, here's what we're allowing, here's what the ordinances are going to look like, and we want some kind of a fund or payment mechanism so that way, if this is no longer a data center, it can be repurposed into something different, which I think is a phenomenal idea. So, as the speaker alluded to, and I just want to separate, this is not a response to your comment because, like the mayor said, we do not respond to comments. But, I think it's noteworthy for all of us to be aware of the fact that Egan, Rosemount, Apple Valley denied a project, and now Lakeville, all of our neighbors have all made really significant activities regarding data center things going on. And why do I bring this up? I think we as a council and as a staff and as a planning commission, we should welcome and engage a dialogue to say, okay, we have this project. We're not talking about the project that's been approved, okay? My opinion on that project has been very well established. I was opposed to it. I'm still opposed to it. That's not going to change. But I think going forward, the residents should expect that we have a good game plan. Do our ordinances match what we want to do? Like anything else, we have ordinances for residential, for business, for everything else. And I think a really good discussion with our other governing groups makes a ton of sense. And that's why I do favor a moratorium. I think it would be reasonable to look at a moratorium. And it shouldn't be looked at as a negative, like we're anti-data center, go away. A good moratorium in a city that implements an effective moratorium is saying, look, this issue is coming at us. We don't know everything that we think we should know. We don't know how this is going to impact our groundwater. We don't know what noise impacts are going to be, the light impacts. We know electricity is out of our control. That's governed by Dakota Electric, but it would be useful to get more information. But I think, the council, the planning commission, staff, we should all welcome a robust dialogue to say, okay, let's put a pause in this. It's okay. We don't have a project in the pipeline. We're not shutting down the approved development, but what we are doing is giving ourselves more time to study the issue. And so I know when I maybe brought it up in the past, maybe there's been interpretation, well, there goes Wilson again, he's got his data center agenda, and I really don't. My agenda is the well-being of the community and developing the community right, and getting up every morning knowing, I don't have to worry about a proposal coming to the city because we've already established a framework, a guideline for how we want this stuff to look. And again, I think there's more pressure coming to Farmington, to Cannon Falls, maybe to Hastings and nearby communities, because the other cities around us have said, hold on, we're slowing down the train here. We got to study this. And I think and so I would just encourage my peers to take a look at what Lakeville is up to and what their agenda looks like in terms of what's on their agenda. They may pass it tonight. They may, defer it to another week or two. But I also think it's really noteworthy that Rosemount, and we know the metadata center is going to be opening probably later this summer, fall. I don't know the exact time frame. But for them to put a moratorium on there like they did in April, I think that's really, really big news, especially for industry folks who are like, well, gosh, we got this big metadata center, and they're saying we want to pause it, and they're saying they want to pause it and halt expansion and further development. And I think what they're saying is, as far as I understand what Rosemount is up to, is they're saying we want to get a good sense of what this first project looks like in order to better evaluate what future projects are going to look like. And I think that's really smart. We've got a really smart, talented staff. We have a smart group in front of us here, and we've got a great planning commission. I think we'd be doing ourselves a favor. I think we'd be doing our community a favor to slow down while we have the time, while there's nothing imminent, and say, let's look at all this. What does it look like? How's it going to impact our community? How's it going to impact our relationship with developers and any other constituency groups that we interact with? So that's kind of my big comment for tonight, and hopefully it's taken in the right perspective. It's not to be a, there goes Wilson with his anti-data center. I think we need to have more conversation. I've always felt that way, and I think now is a good opportunity to explore that.
Thank you, Steve. Lynn?
No comment tonight, thank you.
As far as your comments go, I hope I've never given the impression that I don't want to have constant conversation about this topic, moratorium or not. I think that's been the intent of the office hours, and Ms. Kiefer and I have exchanged many conversations over the last few months that are very in-depth, very detail-oriented, and I absolutely want to. I have the same exact fears that you have, and like the hesitations and all the questions that I want answered. And regardless of where we go with this, I do want to have those conversations. So let's have those work sessions. Let's get those things fleshed out. I think you're right on the money for asking for that kind of stuff. And we should be looking at our neighbors and not shying away from seeing how they're going about getting a good idea is a good idea, regardless of who said it and for what purpose. So I hear you. I'll read my prepared comments for tonight. It did come to my attention that my response to Councilmember Wilson's comments during roundtable at the last council meeting may have been interpreted as having a change of heart, cracking, or being otherwise in favor of a moratorium. I would like to take a moment to clarify both that response and my current stance. I am not in favor of implementing a moratorium on data centers in Farmington for the specific reasons here. Number one, moratoriums only apply for a maximum of up to 1 year. If people are telling you that we should implement a 2 or 3 year moratorium, at best they are legally incorrect, and at worst they are lying to you. Number two, the current lawsuit involving the Tract data center currently does not resolve until June of next year, pending any early settlements. The next 10 months are functionally identical to a moratorium, in that no development will occur on that land until the suit resolves. And we will be spending that time studying best practices enacted by other cities, regardless of the outcome of that suit. There is no gate to us implementing these lessons learned, even without a moratorium. Number 3, the moratorium does not apply to the tract development. Once again, if people are telling you that it would, they are legally incorrect or lying. Inver Grove Heights is living through the scenario of what would happen if the city did try to apply the moratorium to the tract project. They did try this exact thing and are now facing a $20 million lawsuit and are scrambling to exempt the current development from that moratorium. Which brings me to the most important reason. Every time that Councilmember Wilson has called for a moratorium, I hear claps from the residents who live near the Tract project. To me, this means that a moratorium is giving those residents a sense of false hope that the city and council could suddenly change its mind and undo this specific project. Rip up the contract, as I've heard it said. Since I fundamentally believe that any course of action to walk back the approval of the rezoning and PUD exposes the city to the same type of lawsuit that Inver Grove Heights is facing, this is not something that I could ever consciously be in favor of. As far as your comments go, I hope I've never given the impression that I don't want to have constant conversation about this topic, moratorium or not. I think that's been the intent of the office hours, and Ms. Kiefer and I have exchanged many conversations over the last few months that are very in-depth, very detail-oriented, and I absolutely want to. I have the same exact fears that you have, and like the hesitations and all the questions that I want answered. And regardless of where we go with this, I do want to have those conversations. So let's have those work sessions. Let's get those things fleshed out. I think you're right on the money for asking for that kind of stuff. And we should be looking at our neighbors and not shying away from seeing how they're going about getting a good idea is a good idea, regardless of who said it and for what purpose. So I hear you.